Right, I'm now going to come to Tom Younger from Western Power. He's the director at Western Power. He was telling me before that his project is rather special. It's run over river. So this brings me to a little thought, Tom, that I still mentioned to you. We did some work for a very prominent European development finance institution in 9 countries. And we got stuck on something on renewable energies, to identify renewable projects, renewable energy projects for them, and to propose them for banking, bring them to how they could be brought to bankability and so on. And we were supposed to do 10 countries. In the end, we came down to 9. We just couldn't get the 10th country. And I did Côte d'Ivoire and I did Nigeria. But one of the biggest problems I hit on was the DFI's definition of renewable energy. What is renewable energy? You know, big hydros are naughty, naughty, naughty things. They're not, they're not accepted. And then I had another problem in Côte d'Ivoire. They're a very big producer of cocoa, so the husks are natural feedstock for biomass projects. So there's some very interesting biomass projects there. So why would you consider biomass? In a place like Côte d'Ivoire, where the project seemed very solid to me. And I'm not the one who finally decides, I admit that. I just propose the project and get the information, intelligence around the project, and other cleverer people decide. But I'd say, why? So, Tom, when you mentioned run-of-river, that was the immediate my thoughts. Run-of-river is much more acceptable. You don't have to put up a wall. So, if you'd like to describe your project, thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Chair, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, our project is special, as the Chair says. And I'm pleased to hear from our SADC friend that power is his priority. We've been at the project since about 2012, raising finance. It's a run-of-river project, as the Chair says. We are 300 kilometres upstream on the Zambezi, upstream from Livingston on the Zambezi, about 100 kilometres upstream from Sesheke, which is a major interconnector with Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe. There's another set of falls where we are, which is the Ngonyi Falls. It's relatively low head. We are, depending on the time of year, we're between 10 and 22 metres of head. The project involves a 3-kilometre canal, a bund to guide some water into the canal, and a powerhouse, and then 2 low-head Kaplan turbines, each of approximately 25 megawatts, producing 300 gigawatt hours a year. We have, as I say, we started in 2012. We got our rights from the OPPPI in Zambia, which is the Office of Private Power and Promotion Investment. That gave us the right to do a feasibility study. We then spent a lot of time looking for money. I think, as James Leyland said yesterday, there are 67 operations or companies that provide money for the development stage of these sort of projects. I disagree. I think there's 68, and I think we've been to every single one. We finally settled on, we finally saw eye to eye with DBSA, who've been very, very helpful. They provided some finance through their project preparation funding line in conjunction with AFD. Infraco Africa, who are here, also provided $5.7 million for the development stage. The DBSA tranche was $1.2 million of grant funding. We put a lot of money into ourselves. We put about $1.5 million into it ourselves. And then through that process, it's largely as a result of the difficulty of raising the money, we've had a 4th financier, which was supplier finance, because we failed to pay our bills for so long, which has been very useful, to be honest, and some in particular have been very helpful with us. I've got to say our international legal counsel, who are DLA Piper, have been incredibly lenient on us, and it's been very, very helpful. And I would struggle to see how some of these projects are developed without the help of lenient suppliers like that. The raising of this money has been a huge distraction, but at the same time we've managed to continue developing the project. We we finished our feasibility study, largely finished at 95% early last year, enough to hand it into government and then negotiate the implementation agreement. That took about 8 months of negotiation, but it was finally signed in December last year. We are still doing the ESIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment. That's been ongoing for about 3 years now. The feasibility study was finalised earlier this year with a final report on the minimum environmental flow that we have to let through the barrage. That then enable us to finalise the size of the project and the gigawatt hours per annum. We have a lot of data because the Zambezi River has got 91 years of data. Only in 3 of those years does the project ever fall beneath 18 megawatts. Strangely enough, it's quite a self-leveling run-of-river project because the more water we have, obviously our capacity is being utilised fully, but then the gorge actually backs up and curtails our production in high water, and the less water we have, the greater the head we have. So the water fluctuation and the energy fluctuation are not the same. The water fluctuation is higher, the energy fluctuation is lower. We have a transmission line that passes us. We're only 3 kilometres from the national grid. It's a 66 kV line. It's not big enough to evacuate all the power. ZESCO are planning to put a 220 kV line in because they want to run it from Sesheke into Angola because they see Eastern Angola as a market for power. Yes, they were supposed to start that project at the beginning of last year and they haven't, so we're keeping a careful eye on it because obviously that transmission line is very important to us. And when it hits our critical path, we will step in. Having said that, we can evacuate 70% of the year. We can evacuate our power on the existing 66 kV line, so it's not a complete disaster if the line is not there. We've had interest in the debt finance from IFC, hence we're here. We have had interest in the debt finance from Proparco and AFD. The project is approximately a $200 million project, so debt about 150 million. In our travels for the development finance, we've obviously come across various people who are interested in the construction equity. Globalec, for example, they were here yesterday. CDC. But we come sort of June, July, we're going to be very actively looking for the construction finance. We have our EPC tender started about 2 months ago. We have to follow European procurement rules because of our Infraco friends, and actually I must also say Electra, the private sector developer that they engage, works alongside us to help us where we have knowledge gaps. And the EPC tender process, we're following a negotiated route, and therefore it should close in October this year, around about the same time as our ESIA. The PPA has been handed into ZESCO, and we've started that negotiation, and they estimate that it'll take 3 months, but we shall see. And I think that's about it.
Thank you very much, Tom. Gosh, but you've been through the mill, that's for sure. Bunch of brave guys doing this, so well done. I mean, it shows you the diligence and the endurability of these things. But 2 things that Tom brought up that I took notice of. I don't know how you do. One is supplier finance. In the ICT world, supplier finance is quite a big deal, you know. And they came to your rescue and so on, as you explained. The other one is the whole question of project preparation facilities. You know, you could have a whole session just on that here, on project preparation, because there's that critical time in the beginning of a project, as we all know. I mean, I started my business as a project 23 years ago, and I know what I went through at that time. You know, if somebody could have given me some kind of head start and so on, I mean, I made it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here, but basically, that critical time, that pre-feasibility phase, then they always go to the sponsors and say, well, you must put your money in. He says, yeah, but I've already spent $1 million on the project. of my own pocket. And they'll say, well, we're not impressed. We want to see you still invest and take equity because, that's one of the rules of the game is the sponsors should be committed. It's understandable, very understandable. But that whole question of that. The other thing is, what is not, unless I missed it, not being discussed much today, I wasn't here yesterday, is technical assistance agencies. They can be quite useful in our lives. Like, for example, I give you an example, GIZ from Germany. They do a lot of technical assistance also in the power sector. They work with the utilities so they know what's going on. And I find them personally very useful, but that's for you to decide.
Doing business in Africa. You can't afford to be without Africa Investor.